Want to find out if my voice can shatter glass? Stay tuned for today's episode of Music and You, where we will be answering the questions, what is opera? And how does the voice work? That and much more all coming up in Music and You. We all have a strong opinion when someone asks us, do you like opera? Our answers are very quick. Either, yes, I love it, or opera? I hate it. But do we know what opera is? And more importantly, have we ever experienced opera? Do we know how sushi tastes before even trying it? Can we answer as quickly to the question, do you like movies? The answer is probably no. You probably need to try several kinds of sushi before knowing for sure if you like it or not. If someone asks you, do you like movies? You will probably answer, what kind? I like comedies, but I don't care for suspense. Or I like drama and action, but I don't like fantasy and horror. Well, the same applies to opera. There are many kinds of operas. Comedies, dramas, tragedies, operas with dialogues like musical theater, and even some operas with suspense and horror plots like The Shining, composed by Paul Moravec and based on the Stephen King novel, and Turn Off the Screw by Benjamin Britten. So before you answer the question, do you like opera? Let's dig deeper into the subject, exploring the many elements that make up opera. Opera is a story told through music. It's as simple as that. An opera is essentially a play in which all actors' lines are sung. This singing is combined with elements of drama, dancing, costumes, sets, staging, and lighting. Opera singers do not use microphones to amplify their voices, and the music played by the orchestra is completely live. Originally, operas were performed in big opera houses, but today we have operas performed in small local theaters, in concert halls, in amphitheaters like our beloved Vina Robles Amphitheater, and even in bars and barns. And nowadays, because of the pandemic, operas are being produced 100% online, and many companies have opted for drive-in performances. When an opera is performed in the classic theater setting, the singers who act and sing the story are on the stage. The orchestra, for its part, is in front of the stage but lower down in what we call the orchestra pit. And the orchestra is led by a conductor. The conductor is in charge of unifying performers, setting the tempo, and shaping the sound of the ensemble. Basically, the conductor serves as a messenger for the composer. He or she is the composer's representative, his voice, so to speak. The orchestra is made up of different musical instruments sections: strings, woodwinds, brass, and percussion. An opera production is not complete without the stage director. The stage director's job is not only to select the cast, collaborate with the designers, tell actors where they should move for the proper dramatic effect and leading rehearsals, but a stage director sets the entire artistic vision for the opera. That means that the stage director can update the plot and even rewrite a libretto according to his or her artistic vision. For example, Pacific Opera Project, an opera company based in Los Angeles, just produced a drive-in opera adapting Mozart's comedy Così fan tutte to our current reality under COVID. The production had an English libretto by artistic director Josh Shaw, who rewrote the entire story in order to make it relevant for today's context.
Nice to meet you. We warmly greet you, but because of social distancing, we are standing here resisting. Every urge to shake your hand.
That is pretty cool, right? So let's talk about what makes up an opera. Just as movies have opening credits with music, monologues, and dialogues between two or more characters, operas have similar components where the characters describe how they are feeling and help us understand the story. These are the overture, which is a musical piece played by the orchestra at the beginning of an opera. The overture, which literally means opening, sets the mood and sometimes introduces melodies you will be listening to throughout the entire opera. Think of the overture as some sort of opening credits. We also have the recitative, which means to recite. The recitative refers to a form of singing that imitates the natural rhythm of talking. It is used to move the plot of the story. Think the recitative as either an operatic dialogue or a short monologue. Next, we have the aria, which is a vocal solo, like a song, where the character expresses a personal emotion or reflects upon something. This is comparable to a very emotional monologue. Operas also have ensembles. Ensembles are pieces that are sung by two or more characters at the same time. These songs sometimes work as dialogue or as simultaneous monologues. And finally, the chorus. The chorus is a group of people singing together in parts or in unison. In some operas, the chorus is a major character, and in others, it provides meaningful background music. Now, let's talk about the singers. There are 7 basic vocal categories in classical music. There are 3 basic female voice types: soprano, which is the highest voice type for female singers; mezzo-soprano, which is lower and darker than the soprano; and finally, the contralto or alto, which is the lowest female voice. On the other hand, there are 4 basic male singer voice types: countertenor, which is the highest in the male voice range. This voice type also falls within a woman's voice range. The tenor, which is often the highest male voice in an opera. The baritone, most common male voice in an opera and lower than the tenor. And the bass, which comes from the Italian word basso, which means low. But opera is much more than all that. Opera is considered by many to be the most complete art form, combining all of the elements of art, words, music, drama, and dance. Many famous stories have been adapted into operas, including some you may be familiar with, like Cinderella, Hansel and Gretel, and Romeo and Juliet. Now that we have a basic idea of what opera is, let's talk a little bit about how the voice works. We mentioned that opera singers do not use any kind of amplification. But how is that possible? Why can an opera singer be heard over the much louder orchestra without a microphone? Well, it's all about physics. It's all about the vibrations created by instruments, in this case, our beloved vocal cords. The vibrations produced by our vocal cords send waves into the air, which our brains interpret as sounds. Now, imagine throwing a stone into a lake. Picture the rings of waves expanding indefinitely into the water. This same picture applies to sound. When vocal cords vibrate, it causes movement in the air particles. These particles bump into other particles, making them vibrate as well. This movement, called sound waves, keep going and going until they run out of energy, just like the rings in the water. The bigger the sound wave, the more intense the sound will be. Now, stay with me a little longer as I answer the question, how can opera singers sound so loud? Every note we hear is a combination of multiple vibrations. Each vibration triggers additional frequencies called overtones. These overtones break down into specific frequencies called harmonics. And by manipulating those harmonics is how operatic singers can be heard over an orchestra. Isn't that amazing? Opera singers train for years to master a technique that allows them to project their voices over orchestras that sometimes have over 50 musicians. Now, if you are still with me, you are probably asking yourself, so can an opera singer shatter glass? True or false? Well, physics suggests that a voice should be able to break glass. Every piece of glass has a natural resonant frequency. For example, and we already talked about how opera singers train to manipulate frequencies in order to be able to project their voices in big theaters, right? So, in theory, if the singer matches the natural resonant frequency of the glass and sings that particular pitch loud enough, the glass will start vibrating as well. Eventually, the voice's sound waves will be strong enough to break the glass. So the answer is yes. An opera singer and popular singers as well can shatter glass. The key is to be able to match the natural pitch of the glass and send very strong sound waves. So we will be wearing some safety goggles or sunglasses just in case we actually break the glass. And we will be placing a straw inside the glass. This straw will be our visual representation of the vibrations of the glass. If I hit the right pitch loudly, the straw should move. Remember how we talked about the sound waves and compared them to water rings? Those waves are the ones that should make the glass vibrate until it breaks. So, let's see if I was able to break a glass. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. According to Jeffrey Kaiser, a mechanical engineer at Columbia University who actually studies the different ways in which objects break, says that shattering a glass is possible, but you have to be both good and lucky. Even if you could excite the cup, that doesn't guarantee it would break. Fracture depends on the size of the initial defects. So, I was able to match the natural frequency and sing that specific pitch loud enough to send some sound waves that made the glass vibrate a little, making the straw move. But it seems like I wasn't able to find a glass with enough microscopic imperfections. So I will have to keep looking for my perfect imperfect glass. Thank you for watching today's episode of Music and You, and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon.